Hello. This video is going to not be a total gin and groans or wine and wines. It's just going to be a thoughts. One of my thoughts is I love fixing shit. My wife's vacuum broke recently, so then you have to diagnose what's wrong with it, figure it out. Then once you figure it out, buy the parts and get it fixed and have a happy wife for at least 2 minutes. And I thoroughly enjoy it, fixing shit. Now I've been through many fields of work. Started off life as an engineer, then I became an electrical engineer and became an approved electrical engineer. Then from there I went into computers, and on the operations side, working on computers and making the systems run, etc. That was more a controlling thing. Then I took up a job in contracting and ended up working for IBM initially, who wanted to employ me to train their operators how to operate. Oh, one bit I did miss is when I went for my training as an operator, I passed the exams with distinctions. And I'm not trying to brag about it, I'm just saying that I thoroughly enjoyed it, so I really got into it. And they wanted me to be a teacher. Yeah, I don't think so. Because my plan was to get into computers and then to do contracting, which is what I did. As I said, I ended up working for a local council and working on all of their computers and doing shit. Which was it. That was pretty interesting because we had various branches and offices, libraries, all sorts of things linked into our computers, and we had to go and sort it all out. And you ended up setting up printers, setting up computer terminals, etc. Then from there, I did some contract work. I worked for IBM, as I mentioned, and they wanted me to teach their operators how to operate their machines. Again, I declined that because I was just starting in contracting and I was earning rather good money. Then I thought, well, what's next? And they suddenly came up with this contract for me at a company called, I think it was Touche Ross. Again, it was just operating. There's got to be more to it than this. I was then offered a contract in West Germany working for the European Space Agency on the computers in the Space Agency. Now, in the Space Agency, there was IBM, ICL, Data Rovsin, I think they were called, and various other bespoke computers for controlling satellites and creating images. I ended up, they also had digital. I ended up working on the image collection side and also production of images for television, creating loops. So I got into, I don't know, I suppose you call it photography, I guess, in a way, and also writing manuals to organise how shit should be done when I'm not there. So that was, sorry about that dog. So that was rather interesting. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I wrote the manuals and controlled all of the image machinery that produced massive images on these huge Honeywell tape decks, and the tapes were, they were probably about 2.5 feet in diameter, and they ran at extremely high speed. And then you had to produce images on these sheets of film made by Agfa Gevaert, and they were, I would say again, around 18 inches square. These films had to be single sheets put on a drum, on a Vizier machine as it was called. I think it was a French machine. It was either French or it was foreign. No, it was French because it had French writing on it and I had to learn bits of French. And you had to punch holes in this film, which came without the holes punched. You had to feed it through a machine on a drum, so you had to get it correct through the edges. It had to be the right way round. and then you had to get all of these holes that you'd punched onto teeth, so that when the drum sped up to the appropriate speed, it could create these images. That you did in total darkness. The only clue you had was on the blank piece of film there was a notch in one corner, and that had to be in a certain position, because you were doing this in total darkness, and I mean total darkness. You could not see your hand in front of your face, quite literally, and that was fun to do. So yeah, I did that. This is becoming a bit of a history lesson of me, isn't it? Anyway, if you like it, great. If you don't, oh well. So I did that contract for a number of years, and unfortunately got hooked up with someone else's wife who wanted to come back to England, which I didn't, but I was stupid. I was led by my little head, not my big head. And so I did that, and we came back to England, and I put her through nursing, which is what she wanted to do, and then she, well, let's put it this way, she had relations with someone very close to me. So that was the end of that marriage. But then I thought, well, I need a job, and that's kind of overlapping with when I came back to England. I then managed to get myself a job at a Dutch bank in London called Amro Bank. And I joined that bank my way up, and that was great. And then PCs came into the world. So my jobs initially at the bank were, setting up terminals, making things work, installing the wiring throughout the building. Well, because of my electrical experience, they kind of used me to do that. Fitting up a matrix panel, then installing this electronic equipment to that were modems and things like that. Yeah, modems, good God, those were the days. Setting up the teleprinters, all sorts of stuff. It was great fun. But yes, as I said, PCs came into the world. When they came into the world, I then had to learn a whole new set of skills, and that was setting up a PC, getting a PC to work, starting off with the IBM XT, and I think it was a twin floppy drive. I'm not sure about that. Might have been a single floppy. And then the ATX, then we were getting into the bigger ones, the more powerful machines, which was great fun. Thoroughly enjoyed that. So, then we were trying to utilize the wiring system for our digital DEC computers, not digital, DEC computers. We were setting up the wiring for the DEC computers, but it also had to be usable for the PCs to link to the DEC computers and the IBM System 38 that we put in. So that was all pretty good fun. Just a moment. Sorry about that, slight interruption. So to recap, I joined the bank as a senior operator, moved up to shift leader, and then to operations manager. And I did pretty much everything there, and I again ended up, sorry, interruption again, dogs. So, worked my way up to be operations manager. I then wrote all the procedure manuals for everything we did in computer operations, which were then adopted by the head office in Holland, which I must admit I'm rather proud of that, because I'm no literary expert, but I'm quite reasonable. So anyway, wrote the whole procedure manual. That was then adopted by the head office. I was due to go over to Amsterdam to go through the manual and give them all details, but unfortunately they then decided that no, we don't need you to come across because we're merging with another bank, which was ABN. This was disappointing to say the least, particularly for me and my staff. When I returned from Germany, obviously I needed to find a job, and I also had to find somewhere to live. Really didn't want to live with my parents and my new wife-to-be and her child. Boy, was that a big mistake, being with her. However, my parents had a house in Dorset, although they lived in Mitcham. So we moved into their house down in Dorset, and that meant I needed to find a job down there, which I did, working for an engineering company, Hamworthy Engineering. And I went in again as a shift leader. So, kind of stepped back a bit from the position I had in Germany. But, it was a job, it paid me, and, you got to do what you got to do. And as I said, I had to pay for my ex-wife, she's ex now, pay for my then wife to go through nursing school, which cleaned me out, and so did she later. Oh, that's irrelevant. Well, it's not really. So I then said, okay, where can I get a job? And the job I got was at Hamworthy Engineering. Again, on computers, of course. They had the same computers that I've been used to and worked on for many, many years. One of my jobs, again, was to go around installing terminals, fix problems, etc., etc. They had a thing called Pericom terminals, and those terminals were the initial word processing terminals attached to a Wang system. So, when there was a problem, you had to go up to wherever that terminal was and fix it. I was doing this one evening. There was actually a strike on. Pathetic British workers were striking for whatever reason, I don't know. But anyway, I went up and I had to open a document to make sure it was doing what it should do. So I, without even thinking or looking at the document title, I clicked on the document, opened it up, and it was actually a letter to the strikers. Whew, oh, that's interesting. There was another person there with me, and I showed them the document, foolishly it turns out. And then she was speaking to the operations manager, and he said, about the strike and the letter, and this is the letter we're going to send. And she said, oh yeah, I've already seen it, which surprised him. What do you mean you've already seen it? And she said, well, Gary showed me. I think I was suspended on the Wednesday and fired on the Friday. I don't know if that was right or not. She had an ulterior motive because I was in her way. Yeah. I guess also maybe the operations manager was scared because during my interview he said, well, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I said, in your seat, which I did. And that wasn't meant kicking him out, it meant he moved up, I moved in. But unfortunately the mentality of the people in Dorset was, what should we say, not equivalent to those Londoners like me. They can't see beyond their end of their nose. Okay, enough of that. Stop it here, and I will move back, or rather on, to other stuff. Someone once posed a question to me. Gary, you were in computers for 30, 40 years. What the hell are you doing fixing cars? And the answer that I came up with, and I think other computer people like me, we like to solve problems and make things work. Now, doing it on a computer is terrific. You get the printout you need, you get the result you need financially, whatever it is you're trying to do. You print a document and it prints it all in the right places, whatever. But you have to figure that out. But working on vehicles, the result is a little more instant. Whereas working on computers, it's not as tangible, it's not physical, you can't touch it. But that doesn't mean it's not enjoyable, it is. And working on PCs I found extremely enjoyable, and we'll get on to more of that later. So, yeah. Cut. Oh, it is working. It didn't beep. Blah, 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 blah. Cut. Action. Yeah, working at the bank was, as I said, one of the best jobs I ever had. One of the best jobs. I've had a couple. At the end of the day, Amro Bank took over a company called EBC, and that was good. We were just getting into more exciting communication stuff and possibly even considering satellite communications, but that unfortunately never happened. Because of my quite senior, but not extremely senior level, I was due for a company car. Woohoo! Those are the days. Just as I got promoted to my more senior position, they decided that the next level up was the only ones entitled to company cars, well, that and above. So I missed out there. However, it's what happens, you know. Did I really need it? No, because all I'd do would drive it from my home to the train station and then get on the train to go to London. It was just one of those things. However, as I said, the company then merged with ABN, and Amro Bank and ABN were two Dutch banks and I guess competitors, but became one, and they became ABN AMRO. Unfortunately for me and my staff, as I mentioned, we used old digital PDP 1170 machines and an IBM System 38. They were purely, this is ABN, were purely IBM, I believe, System 38, maybe even AS400, I'm not sure. So consequently, myself and my staff were no longer required. I was given a very generous golden handshake, and I was the last person in the operations department to leave because they asked me to wind everything down, and for that they, you know, gave me a very good compensation package, which was great. But then I found myself unemployed. I lived off that for a while, but then thought this is no good. I was living by myself at the time, and I just was fucking around. I tried to start my own business, well, which actually worked, come to think of it. You know, doing household repairs and fixing shit, and I did very well at it, but it didn't feel like a vocation for me. And also I was living in a country I didn't want to be in. So I then looked around and thought, well, where do you want to go, Gary? What do you want to do? You're in your early 40s. Life's got a long way to go yet. You've got to do something that you want to do. At that point, I decided to see if I could find a lady friend and move to America. I came out to visit my brother many moons ago, and said, hey, you know, why don't you sponsor me? But apparently that wasn't possible. I then joined a pen pal club, and I was sent a list of ladies. Very interesting. Some of them were very frightening. However, I met one young lady who is now my wife, and we've been married now for 27 years. And it worked out. So I moved to America, packed up my shit, walked away from my house and my credit card debt, and came to America with the, should we say, caveat that my now wife and I at the time didn't know if it was going to work out for us. You know, we'd met, we'd been together a number of weekends, we liked each other's company, we were very truthful to each other with how we were. And then we said, well, sod this, let's get married. And foolishly for her, she agreed. Then, career-wise, I had to find some work. Initially, they wouldn't let me work in America because I was an immigrant, I guess. And I finally got a national insurance card, and they let me work, and I ended up stuffing envelopes, programming telephones, something to bring money in. Oh, my wife did haul me out to fix things for her friends at work and decorate and stuff, which is quite amusing. But then I managed to secure a job at a company as a project manager, and it was setting up a whole system with lasers, which was absolutely fascinating. But unfortunately, we were getting work and contracts from outside, and the biggest contract we had, they suddenly decided, no, we're not going to do this anymore. So I ended up losing another job. Now, I was very pleased because the guy that employed me then said, Gary, I will continue to pay you until you find a job, and in the meantime, if you wouldn't mind helping us out doing this and doing that. And I'm absolutely fine. So I did all of that. Finally, I did find a job, and that was working for if my brain cell would work. Cut. I secured a job working for Urban Outfitters, again as an operations manager, and that was good. IBM systems, which I knew, worked on, and helping set up the PCs and everything, and it was a really good job. I thoroughly enjoyed it. They're also linked to anthropology, and we had various buildings around, and we were doing microwave signals, and it was really good, really interesting. Unfortunately, the director, for some reason, didn't like me. There's a surprise, huh? And I was surfing jobs for some reason. I don't even know why I was surfing to jobs. And I saw my own job advertised. Believe me, that's a bit of a kick in the ass, and a punch in the teeth and a punch in the gut. I did confront them about it, but of course oh no, we're just putting feelers out for blah blah blah. They lied through their teeth. This was the Urban Outfitters mantra, rather than trying to say, Gary, we need you to do this, or can you go and learn more about that. They just decided to replace me. During that time, one of the people that worked alongside me left and went and worked for And One basketball marketing company. And because I was looking for a job before they got rid of me, I called him and he said, yeah, we've got a job for you, Gary. It's as in PCs, working on PCs. It's not a management position, but it's technical support. It's pays this, you get that. And, okay, so I didn't have a title. Who cares? Well, the title was, I don't know, PC analyst, I guess. Fine, I don't care. I don't care what the title is. The job was great, the pay was great, and the job was absolutely amazing. And there's a lot I could tell you about that job, but I'm not going to bother going into that. So that was going great. I was there for, I don't know, 6-7 years, something like that. But the management, which was 5 people, one of them was more interested in gambling than he was in running the business. Consequently, they got themselves in shit, and the company was sold, and I found myself unemployed again. But at this time, my wife, who also worked for the same company, was also unemployed. They sold their asses and didn't. I don't say they didn't care about the people, they did. But of course, both my wife and I were unemployed at the same time. So that's when we decided, pack up sticks, move to Arizona. Got myself a lovely job out here as a IT director, going absolutely brilliantly. I had a VP above me who was a real good guy, and he could see where we were going and what we should do, and he was very helpful. Unfortunately, he left. I foolishly, shall we say, proved the owner of the company to be wrong in a decision he made when I told him not to make that decision, but he wouldn't listen. Because I did that, he had me outsourced. That was then me saying, fuck this for a game of soldiers, I don't need the corporate world anymore. And I ended up doing a few odds and sod jobs until I became retired, and now I'm busier than ever, fixing people's cars, restoring cars, doing shit I enjoy. Gosh, wasn't that long-winded? Thought you might like to know that. God knows why you do, but hey, that's me. I would say in a nutshell. That's not quite a nutshell, is it? Nutshell. Born in England, worked in England, worked in Germany, moved to America, worked in America, moved to, say Pennsylvania, moved to Arizona, worked in Arizona, and retired. I have had a lot of experiences in life. I've done a lot of shit in life. I've been through a lot of shit in life. But I'm happy. Isn't that what it's all about? Yeah, there are times when you're sad, disappointed, and you see mistakes you made, especially if you're a man. As I said, you're led by your little head, not your big head most of the time. And I fell into that category more than once. Nearly got me killed at one point.